Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Michael Wright, who's an insurance agent with Trailstone Insurance Group. Michael, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me back.
Hey, you're welcome. And I'm excited today to talk about this topic because I really love how you are putting this, what is the value of an independent insurance agent? So let's just jump right into that. And first of all, if there's value attributed to something, we have to define it first. So what really is an independent insurance agent?
So in the property and casualty, more specifically the personal lines insurance industry, we're talking about homeowners, auto, umbrella policies, landlord policies, renters insurance, those types of things that you may need on a personal level. You can get them through various insurance business models. Now we have independent agency, we have captive insurance companies, and we have direct writing insurance companies. Captive insurance companies and direct writing insurance companies are very similar in the sense that you're approaching that company and you're getting their insurance policy. So we're talking about State Farm, we're talking about American Family, we're talking about Farmers Insurance Company, Geico, we're talking about Progressive Online. All of these companies, you're going to go to them and you're going to get a policy from that company that I just mentioned. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, like the big commercials you see on TV, those names, you're going to get their policy. They're the ones that are captive because whatever human you are talking to works for that company, and that's what they're going to offer you.
Exactly right. And circling back to the independent agency model, which is in the grand scheme a little bit newer than those other models that we were kind of just talking about, we aren't employed by any one of those carriers. We've actually cultivated business relationships with over 50 insurance carriers in Colorado. And what we can do is we can kind of act as a broker. So we would gather your information, we'd cast a wide net for you, we'd shop you with all those carriers, and at the end of the day, what we're going to recommend to you is the best fit for you, meaning that we're not going to sacrifice any coverages. When we meet all of the coverage standards that you're looking for, we're going to recommend to you the most economical option. So we're not just going to one or two carriers. And believe it or not, the insurance premiums that are out there, even in a given state or a given zip code, can vary drastically. So it's of a benefit, a very big benefit for consumers to shop around, look for different rates, but it's kind of looked at as like a daunting task. Man, shopping for insurance, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I'm going to call one company and get it over with because they're going to ask me a zillion questions, right? But come to us. Let us ask you a zillion questions one time, and it won't even be a zillion questions.
You're going to get the questions asked no matter whether you're talking to one of the employees of one of those brands or yourself who has access to dozens of brands. Here's a question that made me think of something when you were describing that. You know how you see on the commercials these days, bundle your homeowners and car and get a better rate. Is that always the case, to have your homeowners and car and multiple policies all with one carrier?
I would say in a perfect world, it definitely would be the most economical option. But as we know, we don't live in a perfect world.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with any sort of out of this very small box, if you've got a ticket or if you've got a claim, which a lot of people do on their houses. We live in Colorado, it hails a lot. If you've got any sort of issue that could potentially cause a carrier to raise a flag, then that bundle may not be the best option. And we could offer you one policy with one carrier and another policy with another carrier, which, contrary to popular belief or contrary to what we're seeing on these TV commercials, we can outrun those multiple policy discounts by finding you the most economic individual policy.
See, that's what I was suspecting you would say, is many times you as a human and seeing all of the claims and all of the issues and successes, you're going to be able to go, oh, you know what? Why don't we place with this and place your homeowners with that and car, because of what you just described. Now, here's what I find too many times people don't understand. They just hear that thing over and over and over again. Bundle, save money, bundle. But you just described that in some cases, what if you had this or that happen? It might be saving you money to put one of your homeowners with one carrier and your car with another. And the net result is you've got lower premiums than just staying with one. And going with the captive agent with one of the brands you mentioned, they don't have that luxury.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's not something that they talk to you or tell you about either.
Yeah. Because why? Because it's not in their best interest. In reality, it's in your best interest to have the lowest rates, but it's in their best interest to put you in everything that they have. They have no ability to go out and go, oh, well, it's kind of like, remember the Christmas movie Miracle on 34th Street, the Macy's Santa got in trouble because he was like, oh, so-and-so down the street has a better deal. Well, in one case, it's like, well, you need to be selling Macy's. In Geico or State Farm or whoever we're talking about, all they have available to them, all the tools in their tool chest is their products.
Exactly right. And here's one thing that they rely on: brand recognition. They're in your face all the time. Commercials, radio ads, catchy things like Mayhem and Flow from Progressive. I get it. The Ostrich from Liberty Mutual. They're awesome. They're hilarious. They're really, really good at grabbing attention. And what they're trying to do there is kind of build this imprint of these carriers' names in your mind, and it works. It's clear that it works because a lot of you probably have these companies for your insurance policies. And then when you do get a quote from an independent agent, you're seeing some names that you maybe don't recognize, and that is a little bit maybe off-putting for some people. But there's a reason, and the reason is that these carriers who work through the independent agency channel, they know that essentially consumers have to buy their policies through the agent. They can't go to them directly to buy it. So they're spending their marketing dollars and their attention on the agents as opposed to the consumers. So if we're looking at a company like Safeco Insurance Company versus Liberty Mutual, if I told you that they were, if Safeco was a subsidiary of Liberty Mutual, would you know that?
No. Who would? Yeah. How would you know that? Right.
So it's essentially the same thing. You're just not seeing ads for Safeco. That doesn't mean the company is any less financially stable. It doesn't mean that they're any less productive in terms of customer service or claims payouts or anything like that. So it's really just a difference in the business model. All the carriers that we do work with are financially stable, rated A or better, with a lot of financial ratings companies.
And I could tell you that I came to you guys. Trailstone holds my insurance, and I came to you out of one of these big carriers, and the savings was thousands of dollars a year. And my homeowners is with Progressive, and my car is with Safeco. And the reason I asked you about that bundling is it's like in our minds we're like bundle to save. Well, not so much. And those two carriers are well-known carriers. You guys saved me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year. And now all of a sudden I've just got two names I've recognized, and that's great. Well, one of the limitations of working for the big carriers is that's all you can offer. And secondly, I have no clue about this, but I wonder how many hundreds of millions of dollars they spend in all those commercials. And then does that tend to tick up the cost of the premiums a little? Of course, because they have that big cost there. So one of the benefits of being independent is you guys don't run multi-million-dollar TV commercials to drive up the cost. And how many carriers do you have access to that you're researching?
So Trailstone, we have access to over 50 different insurance companies, wide scale. So for various risks. One thing that I was talking to a lady recently, and she's with one of these captive insurance carriers, one of the bigger ones, and there's these Marshall Fire total losses that we've been hearing about lately, storylines of people being underinsured, and that caused her to go to her agent to say, hey agent, can we review my policy? The premium seems high, but I just want to see and be sure that the policy coverages are adequate. And she didn't quite get the response that she was hoping for. So she went back to the agent after their initial conversation. Hey, guess what? I'm shopping around. I need my policy information so I can, answer some questions that I'm being asked to get some new quotes. And with that conversation, she was able to get the results that she was hoping for out of the first conversation. So, there's tactics out there to try and keep people with these captive insurance carriers, because they know that they don't have anything else to offer.
Yep.
So they're trying to keep you. They're trying to keep you where you are until they get the sense that maybe you're leaving. Then they're going to try and do the work for you. But
Yep.
then at that point, the customer's already a little bit, upset. They're already shopping around, and at that point, there's a high chance if they're looking through an independent agency that they're going to find something a little bit more competitive.
100%. So one of the things when I'm hearing you say this with the big names and the captive and then independent, there's another competitor in air quotes that I'm using here, which is, why don't we just go online? Why don't we just search for stuff and find some of these engines out there to go, I need insurance for this, find me something. Where's the benefit or fallacy in doing that approach?
I can't really lie. I think it's great in theory. It's a great idea. It's kind of like a hybrid between having an independent agent and not having one. The biggest difference is that you don't have the human touch. You don't have the relationship with the agent to lean on. If something does go wrong in that 30-day free look period that carriers have after the policy is issued, you can't call an agent to say, hey, what's going on? Talk me through this. You can't call an agent to say, hey, I need to shop around for another policy. It turns out the one that you initially set me up with isn't going to work. There's not going to be a human, talking to you through common questions and things that should be touched on. So,
and I can validate what you just said by this example. Years and years ago, I was in the banking industry, and I worked at a bank in one of the branches as a personal banker. And this was back in the late 90s when this newfangled online banking came out, right? And I just remember the uproar. Oh, banks are going to go under, and no retail branches, and it's all going to be online. Nope. And you know why? Because people want to come in and speak to a human. They want to shake hands. They want to high five. They want to talk to someone to go, oh, my situation. Where should I put my money, get this mortgage? They want that human touch. And I think that's exactly what you're describing here. Yeah, the internet's great to get some basic research, but when it comes down to it, you need someone that's got your back and that has access to dozens and dozens, upwards of 50 carriers, like you just mentioned. And here's one question for you, Michael. Aren't you going to, during these, upfront intake questions that we mentioned, aren't you going to kind of ask a question or two based on what you have seen happen to people in the industry? Like, oh, you know what? You mentioned that you are a business owner, or you mentioned that here's a question for you. I want to make sure you're covered the right way. Well, no bot or AI or online form is going to know those kind of things, right?
It's a really good point you bring up. We do consider ourselves to be field underwriters. So in those conversations, like you mentioned, if we do learn of, your vehicle being used for Lyft or Uber, or if you are using your vehicle for business use that's related to your own personal business, there's some changes that need to be made. And there's potential that those types of things, amongst others, aren't going to be accepted by certain carriers, because from one carrier to the next, they have different underwriting guidelines and appetites for certain types of risks that we're talking about here.
And the time to find that out is not when there's been an accident and you make the claim and you get denied because, you were doing this the wrong way. And you're like, how was I to know? And so the time is up front, and having that person like yourself at Trailstone to ask these questions, to be thinking, 2 steps ahead, to me, that's invaluable. So that brings up now another question, which is, okay, you get all these layers of people involved. So we've got, the consumer to Trailstone to then the ultimate carrier. Doesn't that add in so many layers of cost? So isn't that going to cost the customer more to go through you guys?
$1 million question. Does it cost more for me to use your services? No, I love it. Thank you for bringing that up. Ultimately, like we were talking about before, these carriers that we work with, they're not peddling large sums of money to pay for TV advertisements and buy football stadiums and do whatever else, wherever else you see these household names. What they're doing is they're paying independent agents a commission outside of the premium that it's going to cost you to be insured through that carrier. So they value us as the independent agents, and we're essentially their route to customers. And because of that, if we recommend you to Progressive for your auto, Progressive is going to turn around and pay us a commission. That commission that they pay us has no bearing on your premium. It's not going to cost you anything to do business with us other than that choice to do business with us. So for you, costs $0 out of your pocket to do business with Trailstone.
That's huge. And then I know that from our previous conversation, one of the kind of cherry on the top is once you become a Trailstone client, you have a whole department that every year shops and researches to make sure you're in the best policy coverages, pricing. And if you can find something better, you bring it to our attention and we can take advantage of that or not. But talk just real quickly about the whole department. And it's not just a bullet point on a flyer. It's like we have several employees that handle that for all of our clients.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be able to go through and input information accurately to go ahead and shop those policies. So it takes a team. It's definitely kind of a tribal effort there to get that done. So if there's an independent agency out there lacking that team with a large customer base, it's going to be early mornings, late nights trying to keep up on those expectations that may have been set.
And if they were set by an individual, it ain't never going to happen. But when you've got a whole team of people, that's their job, it's going to happen. So I just love that aspect. So let's wrap up with this. If someone is listening to this going, you know what, I'm with one of those big names. I wonder what Michael at Trailstone could do for me and maybe get that second opinion. What's the best way they can reach out and connect with you and learn more?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to evade from the question, but one thing I did want to kind of touch on a little bit before we wrap up is the aspect of claims, the almighty claim, right? You've got a claim, you've got a homeowner's claim, you've got a auto claim, and it's like, man, this is the worst process in the world. My adjuster won't answer my call, he won't email me back. What am I supposed to do? Reach out to your independent agent. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of claims. Myself, I actually used to handle claims. I did it for over 2 years. So I know the ins, I know the outs. I can, our agency can make recommendations to you how to traverse the claim. What should I do in this situation? We've got an answer. You're not Googling, you're not, doing whatever else you might be doing without an independent agent. This is a big part of the service that we offer, is helping you through when the claim actually happens.
In the most important time, insurance is fine when nothing's going on, but now when you need it, you are confused and you need the guidance through. So that's an excellent point.
Absolutely. And I can be reached directly. My work cell, text message or phone call, whatever is easier, 720-441-0488. My email address, mwright@trailstoneinsurance.com.
Excellent. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.